I don't know if I agree with the idea that you shouldn't complain unless you have a solution to promote or to suggest. I don't have a solution to this, but it really has been weighing on me the last couple of months, I think. Internet discourse around video games. I mean, I know it's on every fandom, but certainly as it relates to me in video games, I'm not sure what to do with these emotions. I don't know what to do with them. I don't want to, I'm not like, I'm going to leave Twitter. I don't want to leave Twitter. Twitter, I mean, there's problems with it, but I enjoy being on Twitter. I enjoy what I get out of it. But it's just, and it's not just Twitter, but that's, mostly where I go. I don't post on forums anymore. It's just, and maybe some of it's my fault. I mean, but it's so negative lately, and it's so combative. It's like that's all people want to do. And I get most people don't, right? Most people who agree or disagree, they just don't post anything. They're like, okay, I read that. That's interesting. I like that view. I don't like that view. They move on. I get this is a vocal minority. And I probably have even contributed to it at times. And I also get that when I've contributed to it, it's mostly in fun, right? And maybe that's the same for most of these other people. But like when I say something like, you stupid fucking morons, if you like this, you're a goddamn idiot. I mean, I don't really mean you're a goddamn idiot if you like something I don't like. And I try to do it with an inflection in my voice of a wink and a smile and whatever. I don't care what people like. I love and respect the fact people like different things. So maybe, maybe most of you guys who don't have a problem with it know that 99% of it is not anything but people just taking the piss. And maybe it's a mentality, like it's a shift I need to make to think that. But I'm looking even Gene Park here. Here's my Twitter. Gene from the Washington Post. Again, I hold real journalists like Gene, and Gene specifically as well, in high regard. Because I'm quite the fan of the value of journalism in a democracy, republic, whatever you want to call it. And it just stuns me that a guy who is so well researched, he plays, he finishes games, he's a hardcore gamer, he understands the culture, just to see people pushing back. Like, here's the last couple tweets he's put up, just his response. The last one he wrote was, "Oh my God, please stop yelling at me about multi-platform and emulation. I'm just expressing how I feel. Jesus Christ." Here's one where he says, "I deleted my tweet about Astrobot console exclusivity. Tired of having my tweets picked apart like they're essays." Another guy who comes on the show sometimes, you guys know Kirkland Gray, he was retweeting this guy, the Cavernacle, who wrote, "Gaming discourse is exhausting because it feels like popular opinion, which becomes the narrative, is shaped by like 30 conservative male YouTubers and streamers. It feels like average people are scared to have an opinion that doesn't conform." I think he was talking specifically about Concord, I believe. And then Kirkland's like, yeah, I mean, Kirkland gets, as he said, he gets clowned for it consistently. And it absolutely makes you wonder, where is all this coming from? Why is it happening? Do you just have to ignore it? Do you have to leave social media and say, look, I'm not going to ever post here again except for business things, right? Like Colin Moriarty says, I post stuff about Last Stand Media. That's he's like, I'm on Twitter, I read it, but I do not engage because what's the point? I'm fascinated by the psychology behind it, though. I mean, are some of these people, that's another thing. I had a friend of mine who's autistic tell me, because he doesn't have a lot of social cues. He doesn't really, so he doesn't get a lot of sarcasm. Not that all autistic folks don't get sarcasm, but his variant is one that you have to be very literal with this guy. And a lot of times he'll say, if you say something that's not literal, they'll take it, not they'll like all autistic people are alike, but people like him will take it as fighting words because he'll think you're being purely literal. And maybe it's just, there's so many different types of people all glommed together that's what's causing it. Maybe I don't know. Here's my comments. I mean, just look at this. And this guy, Dr. Gree, he says, I was talking about Concord. I would buy the crap out of a Marvel Rivals game with Concord's price point and monetization. Game journalists and influencers like you telling publishers that Concord business model is wrong and against what gamers want, as if we like getting nickel and dime by free games just so you can run cover for ideology is messed up, bro. Why? I mean, again, maybe I didn't ignore it, but maybe you just have to ignore it because this is a guy that's convinced that I run cover for ideology. What? I have an ideology. I have views and positions on things and things I will defend and debate you on, but nobody's running cover for it. I literally think Concord's biggest Achilles heel is the price point and the fact that there's a lot of games out like it that are free, and it doesn't look like it's doing anything all that interesting, even though it's very well made. And then, yes, the characters, I don't have a problem with them being diverse or having pronouns. I just think they're really off-putting designs. And I don't want to be any of these people. They look not fun. And so I'm trying to offer up my conversation as a gamer, as a guy who does YouTube, and as a guy who has worked in games for 20 years, specifically with Sony for all that time. And instead of the response being, I don't agree with you, but I get what you're saying, it's I'm running cover. The fuck am I, a operative in Cuba in the 60s trying to get Castro assassinated? What are you talking about? You know, and again, you know, I said recently on a podcast, people are, well, Jeff, you said all Republicans are assholes. I didn't say that. I said the Republican Party is a or the party of assholes or of a bunch of assholes, implying that tends to be where I see most of the assholes congregating. It doesn't mean everybody who's conservative Republican is an asshole. And I think I did make that clear, but now, you know, so maybe it's just, it isn't the place for nuance. I don't fucking know. Look at this one. These people on my channel trying to convince me that DEI is the reason Concord flopped. He says, Concord, Star Wars Outlaw, and Dustborn all flopped at the same time. Is this going to convince woke people like Jaffe that wokeness is a plague to gaming? And I said no, because Dustborn really isn't a game that anybody was talking about until it came out and flopped. I didn't even know what the fuck it was. Star Wars Outlaws, I don't know why they think that game's woke. It's not woke. It's not, it just is. But it's just like that other comment on that guy's thing about all these just conservative voices in gaming. Maybe, I don't know. If you look at the poll, I mean, again, I got nothing against you if you're conservative, but it just seems like all this DEI stuff, no one wants political woke BS pronouns in games. We're sick of it. There's no we, there's you, Flick221. If you're telling me Concord failed, I mean, again, this is what happens, right? I get riled up because I read something like that, and I go, I respect Flick that you may not want pronouns in games. I don't see it as a big deal, but I get that's where you're at, right? That's fine. Do with, just be nice people. What do I care? But don't speak for everybody. That's horseshit. And it says games need to be made by gamers again. Dude, I made games for 20 years. I'm telling you, nothing's changed, man. Just because you have people who are working in the industry that might be on the left or progressive side of things doesn't make them not gamers. I don't know. I don't know why we can't just have a conversation about it and agree to disagree and part as gaming pals. It's real shitty for mental health to go on these sites anymore. And I'm not entirely sure what the solution is, because I know there's money to be made, man. I know you can. I mean, again, I'm not saying all the people that have this view are grifters. I respect the fact, even though I don't respect the opinion, I respect that they have their own opinions, and sometimes they're going to run afoul of what I think. I get it. But a lot of them are just fucking in it for the fucking money. Because listen, I was talking to my kid the other day, and they're like, what do you make per video? And I was talking about the finances of YouTube and all this stuff. And I said, but I tell you what always blew me away? And I asked myself, and again, I interviewed the Quartering. I have very big issues with the Quartering's philosophies, politics, at least what he espouses. But I said, do you know who the Quartering is? And he said, no, I don't know who that is. And I showed him, and he's like, oh, he's one of those people. If you don't know who the Quartering is, I'll show you. Let me show you what we're talking about. And he's not all games. He's more pop culture. He covers games sometimes, right? And so this guy's done very well for himself. Made a shit ton of money. Every video he makes, for the most part, is meant to basically rile up the red meat folks. It's everything's a problem. Everything is a liberal problem. The whole society is breaking down. Woke Lord of the Rings collapses. That was 38 minutes ago. He's at 7,000 views. I can only dream of 7,000 views in that amount of time. Woke Snow White sets humiliating record, 18,000 views in an hour. And if you look at the videos, nothing's wrong with his videos. He's a well-spoken fella. But it's not like he's offering any kind of deep insight, and that's great. He's giving his audience what he wants. My point is, it makes a lot of fucking money, so people fucking go and do it all the goddamn time, and it probably just poisons the well and makes everybody mad. I don't know, man. I don't know what to do with these emotions, my friends. I really don't, actually, truth be told. I'm just tired of it. It's really mean out there. And I know a lot of times on the right, the people say, well, this is how we always feel. It's like, well, then maybe we're all being bamboozled, because as much as I disagree politically with some of y'all, just like you disagree with me politically, I don't want people to feel bad. I'm not trying to, force people to say certain things or avoid certain things. I mean, if you don't want to buy a game because it's got pronouns in it, I think that's silly, but I don't hate you because of it. I just simply think you're wrong. I'm sure there's a lot of shit I'm wrong about, but I don't know. I'm venting at this point. I have no solution for this, but I guess you can be aware of it and that can start being a solution. Maybe somebody like an entrepreneurial sort needs to make like a social media for gamers it doesn't have to be moderated heavily regarding content of ideas, but it's like, you know what? You get 3 strikes, you're an asshole, you're out. And seriously, if that, and I'd pay for that. It's like, yeah, $8 a month. Sure. Sometimes you got to pay for that. It's a gated community, but you know what? People aren't fucking, they might get your dander up, but that's just because they have a disagreement about the best Final Fantasy and they want to articulate it and they disagree with your articulation. Not because they're just it's a culture war thing. I'm tired of it, man. Aren't you, regardless of where you sit on the fence, aren't you sick of it? Isn't it affecting your mood? Your mental health? It's affecting mine.